Music promotion efforts fall flat on a daily basis for artists, and chances are they may be feeling like they did something wrong, but really it's just because you're missing a couple key processes and understanding how the music promotion process works and a little bit of PR in there. So if you want to potentially explode your music promotional process by 10x, then tune in to today's episode coming up right here on the Music Money Makeover show. This isn't ironic that what we're gonna do is we're gonna start with something called a starting point. So check it out. The starting point. When addressing an audience, many artists always start with their immediate fan base, or they start from a position of where they think they can derive a group of followers related to their musical taste. This is the starting point. These people share similar interests, and they will become the people that champion you from the beginning. Talking and promoting to these people doesn't require much translation for them to understand you and know who you are. The reason why it doesn't require much translation is because the algorithms on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, TikTok, or whatever have you has found you and has given it to those with like interests that you have. So it has already been found for you. You don't really have to try and go translate to it because it's kind of on an automated thing, which is good for you. The problem is many artists tend to stick right here, and this prevents them from actually growing or getting to that 10x that I'm really talking about and exploding your music promotional process. So a lot of times you might have artists who do really well on social media and they want to stay there, right? They want to grow their internal fan base. They want to make money from that. And this is all they're going to do. But if you really want to become that household name, if you really want to change the culture and the fabric of music, or just the part of the genre that you work in, then we got to add another step here. And this is called touch points. Touch points are essentially access points or media outlets that allow you to reach a certain group of people who aren't familiar with you and your starting point group of fans. They're not. These touch points share a major or minor relation to your starting point, but they serve a more broad group of people with a larger audience. Many recognize podcasts, blogs, and influencers as touch points in music promotion. Touch points, however, will require translation when it comes to speaking with their audience. And this is the thing that a lot of people don't really understand. So let's say you start your promotional campaign on social media and it's going exactly how you wanted it to go there. But when you step into the platform of another audience, then you got to kind of tailor your message to fit that platform a little bit. So without jumping the gun, the interviewer in that process may ask you different questions related to the story that you want to tell at the time. And that's how touch points work. So you know touch points as The Breakfast Club, Sway in the Morning, Big Boy's Neighborhood, Ryan Seacrest, things like this. You know those places. And then the secondary touch points are the influencers that have big networks or big followings within the social media platforms. You get what I'm saying? And this allows you to build your audience from borrowing from another audience. Yeah, I know you may know it, but it's seldom done with a lot of independent artists because either A, they don't have the teams to make it happen, or they're just a bit too afraid to reach out, or PR may not be something in the area of what they know how to do or what they can either afford or have access to. And I understand. But again, we want to explode the music promotional process. I get that you know how to do it on your own in your own fan base. But if we want to go larger and be bigger and stand in the spotlight a lot more, then we have to build a campaign to dive into these touch points. So from there, let's dive into our next point here. Story points. Story points are what you create for the touch points so the persona of yourself can be conveyed properly to the audience that the touch point possesses, like Sway in the Mornings and all that, right? So these are story points. This is why, if you're a fan of an artist, you'll see the artist being asked the same structured questions in multiple interviews. The reason is to convey a story to the public about the artist at the current time. That's it. So now we're concerned about what you're working on. This is why in the beginning of the interview, you'll hear the interviewer say, hey man, welcome to the show, blah, 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 something along the lines of tell us a little bit about yourself, where you from, how'd you get started, blah, blah, blah. And then they'll go, well, tell us what you're working on right now. They'll go into that. Okay. And then you get into that. Well, who's on there? Who's the producers? Who'd you work with? Such and such at this label and that label. And y'all get into a conversation about that. And then you're talking about a little bit of life events and you'll mix that in there so we can get a little bit of your personality and your viewpoints on the world. And then they'll talk about, when's the album dropping and what you're doing after the album, if you're going on tour and blah, blah, blah. And then you leave everybody on a cliffhanger with the future processes of what you're going to do. And I'm going to get into that in a minute. And that's how the story points work. The story points will be adjusted based on the audience and the platform. So wherever you go to with the touch point, we take our story points and we just tilt them to the left or a little bit to the right to match the audience that they have. It won't be too far off, but the whole point is to pitch and sell to their audience what it is you do, right? Now, everybody is not going to see these interviews all the time. So let's say if I was putting out I was going to do an interview on, I don't know, Big Boy's Neighborhood. We might talk about some stuff that has something to do with, LA, like, oh man, I was at Roscoe's, the other day and blah, blah, blah. And such happened to me down here. You know what I'm saying? And that is related to a little bit to that audience and that local audience. And then of course he has a national audience as well, but they understand that you're on the West Coast. And then you may go and do an interview with, I don't know, something that has to do with music production and you're over there doing an interview with them, but it's all related to the production process of the album. So music producers can relate to you and other singers and songwriters can relate to you. You see what I'm saying? So the platforms will be different. The story will be around the same thing, but it's going to be different, right? And that's just how it goes. So let's take a little bit of a deep dive into this right here with something that is called relating to the public. Relating to the public. These three processes are called public relations. It takes a skilled person and a patient artist to understand the craft of how to utilize the media properly. The goal is to tell a crafted story about yourself for the time so that the general public understands you, what you're doing, and why you're doing it. This is called relating to the public, and you hope that the public will relate to you and support your cause. It's like you're throwing fishing poles out there, man, and you're just seeing who you can reel in with the touch points. That's it. So, for instance, I made a lot of money. I'm not going to tell you how much I made, but I made a lot of money when I went and did the No Labels Necessary podcast. They knew it. I knew it. Because we share the same audience and everybody loved it. So when I was on there, everybody from my channel that watches No Labels Necessary was championing me like, yay, hooray, he made it, right? And then everybody on that channel who'd never really seen me or maybe had glanced at my stuff saw all the comments from all of my viewers in the comment section and they came over to the platform. And anybody who was on my platform said, you know what, man, I'm gonna go ahead and get that course he's talking about all the time. And instantly the money started racking up. So that's the beauty of touch points. And the same thing goes. If I can relate to you on one platform or an interview that and let's say maybe I'm not following you on your social media pages, I know of you, or I may follow you, but it's just not in my feed anymore because maybe you're not consistently posting, or I got other people that consistently post more than you frequently, then I'm not going to see you all the time. But if I see you on YouTube, I'm going to watch that interview and then I'm going to say, you know what, man, let me go to Spotify and listen to this thing because you might not have your stuff on Even or Bandcamp or whatever like that. So I'm going to go listen to it. And I'm gonna go tell somebody about you and so forth and so on. And now the word of mouth process continues. So I've heard, for instance, and this is my last point here, when Sean and Jacory did the interview with Joyner Lucas's manager on No Labels Necessary, I got people who just randomly in my calls start talking about Joyner Lucas. And it's like, yeah, he's great, but he wasn't even on the radar of my callers until the audience started sharing. You know what I mean? Like it was like we were talking about similar things in the space of building a label. And so it just got trickled over. Just like I put out the video last week earlier about Curtis King and his method of single promotion on Spotify. And then I did my rendition of it and he came over and everybody from his page that knew that I was talking about what he was talking about signaled him. And then Busy Works Beats came in and has something to say. It's just, you know what I'm saying? So touch points happen like that. You get what I mean? And that's how you want to play PR. You want to get people to relate to you. So let's talk about time frame. Building stories for an extended time frame allows you to become a master at public perception. This allows you to keep the public's attention on your brand and ultimately grows your brand to astronomical heights by looping story points together ahead of time. So if you are able to do this, to become a master at building one story, we have a massive event here. And then we say, okay, this is one massive event. We need to create another massive event right here. And we loop them. We're here, we go here, we loop it. In that time period, there's a gap where we won't show up to any media outlets. But 9 months later, we're coming back because we have a strong enough event to line up more interviews, to keep us in the public's eye. The more and more challenging or big events that you link together, the more you stay in the public's eye. And so it's not just one time you're here and then boom, we're out, right? So we want to keep, okay, we're going to build this event here. 9 months, we're going to have another event. In another 9 months, we're going to have another event because that gives the first one time to dissipate into the next one and into the next one. And you loop the stories together. Now we cooking with grease. Now, eventually you become a household name, but I don't want to give too much away. Let's keep going. So your question may be, how do we 10x the promotion process? And I kind of just gave it to you, but getting a bigger multiple out of your promotional process is created by adding multiple touch points and story looping. So staying on that point here, what is story looping? Even though I just explained it, a story loop is essentially attaching multiple challenging events to you as an artist and telling the public how you're going to overcome the challenge or task in that moment. However, the public never sees this, and this is what I didn't explain earlier. They only constantly see you in the general public staying active. Now, here's the kicker. If you loop too many stories together, eventually they become known as side quests. You don't want to do side quests early in the game. This is oversaturation at this point. When you become oversaturated, you wear out. And people are like, all right, I'm good on you. And it happens too fast. So you want to give it time. This is a timing game. You know what I mean? So like I said, you got to become a master at this. But if you understand what I'm saying, you slow down your hustle and your rush to put music out just because you want people to hear it, right? You book a call with me because you know Case is going to help you sort things out. Then this will begin to make sense. You see what I'm saying? Let's keep going. Well, when do I add touch points to my process? Touch points are best added around your release and sprinkled in here and there before and after the release. So you have a period going up to the pinnacle of the release, boom, right here. And so you got some sprinkled and, you know, in and out there, and you have a bunch of them right here clustered together around the main event. And then you got a few sprinkled out on the way down. That's how you add touch points, essentially, to what it is you're doing. It's a timing thing. You get what I'm saying? But that's how you got to work it. Now, all of this will essentially bring in more cash flow to your situation. And because you have an uptick of cash flow, you want to make sure that your business structure is set up from the get-go. So if you are a music creative or a new music executive who needs to build your record label or publishing company in 60 days or less with a foolproof step-by-step process, jump into my 60-day record label course beneath this video today. All right, you'll gain the ability to get funding for your record label in the process of that. You'll also prevent yourself from getting screwed contractually out here in the game, because I'll show you how not to do that, and you'll keep the middleman out of your pockets. But if you are skeptical of this process and how it goes down, grab my free guide, 10 Major Steps to Increase Your Record Label's Profits. A free split sheet is included with that download. But again, let's talk about the upside here to adding this process in. Now, if you add touch points, your promotions will increase exponentially with each point you add. This is something that running an ad cannot do for you. It makes it appear as if you're everywhere, and it increases listeners, sales, and followers across the board that you could never have imagined. Okay, that's your upside, you get it. Here's the downside. Only focusing on the starting point makes your promotion process a bit flat, and people outside of your base never get to know you. This is when artists become frustrated. Let's harp on this for a little minute, and then I'm gonna get out of here. I see people come to me all the time. It's like, man, I got great music. It's doing well, and it is doing well, right? And I'm watching it do well, and I'm like, okay, there's something missing in the initial point of the starting point. Either A, I don't know who you are, so the story isn't there, or B, I don't know how talented you are, so there's not enough expression of talent. So you might have paid for promotion, or you might have done ads, right, that showed like the final product of the music video, but then when I come to your social media page, there's a disconnect. So this is where you want to actually go back to the starting point, figure out and learn how to build a story in the talent portion of yourself. And then from there, you want to build up and add the touch points, and then you'll build it bigger and bigger and bigger. So Therefore, music creators, if you are trying to 10x your promotional process, it is not rocket science. It just takes a little bit of dialing in, a little bit of factoring in some things that you could do to change around your processes, pump the brakes a little bit, strategize, mobilize, and then we can execute what it is we need to do to actually get more people to have their eyes and their ears focused in on your product or your album, EP, single, whatever it is you're doing. So, music money makers, if you make music, you should always make money. Log on to musicmoneymakeover.com, jump into the 60-day record label course beneath this video, download the free stuff beneath this video, book a call on musicmoneymakeover.com, smash the like button, and I'll see you next time. Peace.